had to be at a certain height in that fear. And Wes just came up to me and he said, imagine 1,000 bullets ricocheting through your body right now. And they walked away.
Hello?
Do you like scary movies? Surprise, Sidney.
IGN Icons is a celebration of the creatives and creations that reshaped pop culture over the last 30 years. And few films reshaped a genre the way the Scream franchise did. It taught us the rules and terrified us by putting those lessons to the test in gruesome fashion. Now, as the franchise comes full circle with Scream 7, we sat down with series creator Kevin Williamson, Sidney Prescott herself, Neve Campbell, and Isabel May, who debuts here as Sidney's daughter Tatum, to look back at what Scream changed and what it has to do to stay ahead of its own influence. Before Scream was released in 1996, and before you wrote it certainly, what was your conception of what horror was allowed to be, and what were you trying to change with that original script?
It's so weird. I didn't sit down and go, oh, I'm going to change this. I'm going to change horror. I'm going to change the way that, I just know that it was in a rut. Halloween had come and gone. Friday the 13th was probably up to 7 or 8 at that time. And these movies just didn't have the spark that they used to have in the 80s. And so here in the 90s, the horror movies aren't really working. It's what I love more than anything. Where are they? So I just wrote the movie I wanted to see.
After the huge success of Halloween in the late 70s, slashers became the dominant subgenre for horror in the 1980s, as movie studios looked to make a big return on investment on relatively cheap movies. It doesn't cost as much to eviscerate up-and-coming actors on camera as it does to blow up a Death Star or a village in the jungle, you know what I mean? The 80s became an absolute battle royale of slashers at the box office. Halloween kept rolling, but Friday the 13th and of course Nightmare on Elm Street, Wes Craven's psychologically rich take on creatively themed killer thrillers, also got in on the fun. The early successes of many of these new entrants created a strategy which led to a rule of thumb as immutable as "don't ask is anyone there" to a dark room. And that was, no matter what, there's always room for a quickly produced sequel. The market became flooded with attempts at recreating Halloween's success again and again and again as the law of diminishing returns started to settle in with audiences. By the early 1990s, the box office take for slashers had started to sputter. The entire horror genre started to feel stagnant to fans like aspiring screenwriter Kevin Williamson. After studying screenwriting in college, Williamson saw a 1994 TV report on the Gainesville Ripper murders which rocked Florida 4 years prior. Williamson went to work with a head full of two things: terrifying slasher carnage and the inner workings of how scripts and movies are constructed. That confluence led to a slasher script featuring characters in direct conversation with the rules of the genre. And for a generation of fans who'd been trained on what to expect from those rules, that was a game-changing move.
I never thought they'd make it. I never thought I'd sell it. I never thought Wes Craven would direct it. I never thought it was going to become a franchise. I just thought, well, maybe someone will go, oh, that's a nice, he's got a good voice. We'll hire him to do something else. It was a sample, and I sold it. I mean, to be honest.
Sometimes that's how it is. The opening scene is critical to every movie, but now when a viewer's attention is harder to hold on to than ever before, a memorable death scene can force the audience to pay attention, pique their curiosity, and as the best ones do, teach you the way to watch the rest of the movie that'll follow. As somebody with a deep understanding of a horror audience's expectations, Wes Craven was well aware that there was a chance to use Scream's opening scene to immediately put the audience on the back foot by casting Drew Barrymore, a star with a significantly higher profile than the rest of the cast at the time. That fit in perfectly with Kevin Williamson's intention to lull moviegoers into a false sense of security. After all, there's no way they would kill off the most famous person in the cast in the first scene, right?
Well, this one wrote, I think, one of the best first 15 minutes of a film in history. And I think I'm not the first one to say it. I think many people have said that.
Oh,
and
well.
because he did that, it puts a lot of pressure on all the rest of the films. But I think we've pulled it off on all of them, and we certainly have on this one.
It kind of became a thing. It definitely was in the first one because I wanted to sort of do the Janet Leigh thing with Psycho, which is an opening scene that goes just long enough so you think, oh, she's going to live. You do turn that corner where you think, okay, this is going on so long. It's Drew Barrymore. She's going to live. She's the star of the movie. And then, boom, she gets killed. I mean, that was the whole game behind it. And then the second film, it happened again. And so now it's become a thing. And so, yes, the pressure is on to sort of one up and to keep it going.
There's a formula to it. A very simple formula.
Opening scenes are crucial in another way. They're usually setting the tone for the whole movie. It's the sensory and emotional weather which hangs over the whole film, and it's one of the director's most important jobs. Luckily, there have been few directors as adept at authoring tone as Wes Craven. Craven's output in the 1970s proved the director was well suited to sustaining tension and dread across a movie's entire runtime, but it was 1984's Nightmare on Elm Street that really made his sense of humor a core component of what audiences would come to expect when his name was attached to a project.
Everything's gonna be all right. Everything's under control.
Get my back, you asshole!
What'd you call me? Huh?
Not your friend.
Wes Craven is very much spiritually still baked into this franchise, of course. Can you remember the best piece of advice that Wes Craven ever gave you?
I feel like his advice was his energy. It was calm and patient and playful and joyful. He loved what he did. He loved these movies. He loved making people scare. He had sort of a twisted sense of humor. I don't want to say he didn't take it too seriously, because he did, but at the same time, there was just a lightness to him that was just so beautiful. So it wasn't a piece of advice as much as we follow the lead, the crew, the energy of the crew, the energy of the cast, the energy of everybody on set is led by the person standing at the top. And because he came from joy and love and a passion for this business and a patience, we all sort of followed suit. And really, it's always been a very joyful set.
To Wes!
I echo everything she said. He had a grace about him. And it was my first movie experience. And I didn't realize at the time that the writer's the first person who gets kicked off set, because Wes didn't do that to me. Wes let me be a part of the location scout. Wes let me in on the casting sessions, and Wes let me be a part of all of it. And he was also there to answer every annoying, obnoxious question that I had. I'd be, what? He would be talking to the cinematographer, and they were setting up a shot, and I go, well, why did you do it that way? Why? He would stop everything and explain it to me. And it was like, oh, because he was my hero growing up, and I was the worshiper, and now he was my mentor, and I was the student. And I tried to soak it up. I didn't realize how good I had it with him because he was so nice. He created a family. Every sort of set was a family, and so we tried to sort of emulate that a little bit.
But that's what you do. That is exactly what you do.
He's so nice.
That's what he does. That is exactly the energy that he sets on set. And you shared with me. You had me by the monitor. You had me in the edit on this. You did that with me. You're very generous with your time and your knowledge.
What about what Wes brought to Scream, the first one, surprised you?
Well, I mean, the man knows how to do jump scares. And he knows how to do tone. And I mean, it was all there on the page already. The humor, this sort of meta aspect, all of that was there.
Name the killer in Friday the 13th.
Jason!
But I think Wes was really good at bringing performance out of people, allowing us to play, allowing, Skeet and Matt to improv sometimes. He had a moment, I remember, in the kitchen scene at the end, I had to be at a certain height in that fear, and Wes just came up to me and he said, imagine I can't remember, 1,000 bullets ricocheting through your body right now, and they walked away. And that was it. That's all he needed. He had a way to get us there.
Wes had a way of getting audiences there too, specifically getting their butts into seats. On a budget of just $14 million, Scream grossed a whopping $173 million at the box office. The blend of horror and comedy, of genuine scares and clever writing, was the exact antidote to formulaic horror that audiences had been looking for, and Dimension moved quickly on the development of Scream 2. Very quickly. Scream 2 released just under 1 year after the first movie, and followed Sidney Prescott to college for a meta-examination of another well-trodden horror trope, the slasher sequel. Scream 3 would continue to expand the meta conversation out to include not just the rules of horror movies, but of horror movie making, with a plot centered on the latest sequel to Scream's in-movie parody of itself, Stab. Man, all this self-referentiality really starts to make your head spin, huh?
He was making a movie called Stab. He was stabbed.
But those quick moves set the stage for Scream's popularity to grow quickly in its fan base, something that franchise newcomer Isabel May, who joined Scream 7 as Sidney's daughter Tatum, has observed her entire life.
You and your pretty daughter reminds me of where we grew up.
Isabel, Scream has been a part of pop culture for your entire life. What has your perspective on this franchise been?
I'm 25, so it came out 5 years before I was born, and it just has never not been, okay. I didn't say that to make you feel bad. The truth, Kevin, it is what it is. You just gotta suck it up.
The truth is the truth.
No, but it's just been a part of my life for so long, and I'm quite fearful of, I have a queasy stomach, and I sort of strayed away from it for so long, just out of, I didn't want to see blood, guts, and gore sort of thing. And then when I sat down and I met Kevin, and I obviously consumed all of the Screams as quickly as I possibly could, I realized there were moments of levity, and it was quite humorous, and not only that, but it was sort of a reflection of the culture at the time. That's what I think is so powerful about each of these films. So what an incredible privilege to kind of be involved in that now.
What are some of the technical nuances of the performance of a Ghostface encounter that people may be surprised by, something that's harder than it looks on screen?
I know the challenge for me with these films has always been, you're almost always in a state of fear, these characters. And Sidney less so now because she's got a bit of, I've got this, but it's still there. The truth, if you're going to be truthful, it has to be there. And for me, the challenge has always been like having colors of that. It can't all be one tone. It has to, you have to find what levels of fear the person's in and what levels of strength she has in every moment and why. And yeah, I would say that's probably the challenges. Each of those moments are different depending on what's happening personally within the scene. It's not just about, oh, here we go, There's a lot of other things going on.
I think in a very technical way, screaming without screaming, I sort of learned that you place it somewhere in your throat where you're not actually using vocal cords. That's how I maintained it without losing my voice. That's what I was very fearful of, is, oh no, suddenly production stops because one of your actors can't say anything, or they're just gonna have to dub the crap out of this. I remember you hadn't heard me scream yet, and you gave me a little talk. You're like, now can you do this? And I was like, we'll find out.
Well, also there's this thing about when you fake a scream, you can see it.
Yes.
You can tell someone's faking a scream, and we're gonna, we'll add the scream later. I remember I had one of the actors who will remain nameless, said, well, can't you just add the scream? And I went, no, wow. When someone screams, it comes from the gut. Yeah. It's part of the performance, and it will read. Mm-hmm. You have to scream. She can scream.
You can't have a good scream in Scream without Ghostface, and the killer's easy-to-replicate costume made him an instant staple of the Halloween season. Ghostface was, of course, played by different actors and stunt performers on set, but the unquestionable secret sauce to the character was Roger L. Jackson's truly iconic voice work.
Hi, who is this?
You tell me.
Even as other characters take on the mantle of Ghostface, Jackson's voice has remained a consistent part of making the character as alluring and terrifying as he is.
You like scary movies, Sidney?
I like that thing you're doing with your voice, Randy. It's sexy.
When we talk about things from Scream that have become iconic, certainly two things that come immediately to mind are the Ghostface mask and the Ghostface voice provided by Roger L. Jackson.
Do you want to die tonight, Cecil? see.
Maybe we could go right down the line here. Isabel, what's your first memory of ever seeing that mask and hearing that voice?
Ever?
Ever.
Oh, Halloween. Every Halloween. When I was a little kid, I remember I was wearing like a little pumpkin outfit. I didn't have good costumes. And just seeing these little kids running around with this weird mask on their face. And my whole life, it's just been around, I think, all of us for forever.
First time I ever saw the mask was on a location scout, going into a garage, trying to find the garage to kill Tatum in, the original Tatum.
Yes.
And Marianne Madalena found a mask in a box and held it up and was, what about this one? That's the first time I saw it.
Wow.
I remember Wes being on set with a few prop department, and I can't remember who else, and there were several. I think they had the one that they thought was probably that one, a sample of where it came from, and then a few others looking at different options. That was the first time, and it was interesting to see that process.
Hello, Sidney.
They never let me meet Roger. They had him hide and do the voice through a phone so that we never actually encountered him. And we didn't meet him until I think 3. And now I just love the man. He's amazing. I see him at a lot of the conventions and stuff.
Can't remember the first time I met him. But I do remember we filmed the Drew Barrymore scene first, and they put him in a tent outside.
Yeah.
On the phone, they didn't want Drew
Anyone
to see him at all.
Yeah.
Why do you want to know my name?
I want to know who I'm looking at.
And so he would just be a voice. And so Wes was good that way.
So iconic, his voice is just astounding.
Hello?
Hello, Sidney. Did you miss me?
For Neve, what was your relationship to horror before starring in the Scream?
I always wish I had a better story, because I wish I was like a horror fan and it was the dream. It was I auditioned and I got the movie, and I think it was my first lead, and I was like, okay, I guess I'm doing a horror movie. I saw The Changeling when I was 13 years old with George C. Scott, and it was the only horror movie that I had seen at that point, and I don't think I saw a horror movie until after we made Scream, or a few Screams after. Since then, because I was so scared, I didn't sleep for months after seeing that.
The bouncing ball.
Oh my goodness, the wheelchair. I don't know if you've ever seen that movie, but it's terrifying. So, it's not like I consciously went, I have to be a part of horror films, but I'm very, very grateful. They're a blast to be a part of. They're hard work, but they're a lot of fun.
No, please don't kill me, Mr. Ghostface. I want to be in the sequel.
What does it feel like the biggest thing that Scream changed about horror was?
Well, Kevin reinvented it. As he said, it was sort of, it did become stagnant, and to sort of create a project that looks at itself and looks at the genre itself and can make fun of itself and also celebrate the genre is really special.
You have to be strong and hold still, okay?
Yeah, old school, like Billy and Stu.
I think you nailed it. Wes, when he read it, he asked me, he goes, is this a comedy or a horror film? Which is it? I go, it's a horror film. He goes, so it's scary, right? I go, yeah. He goes, I can do that. And I think it was about the tone. He created the tone. He let the words speak for themselves, and he just really created this really nice tone where it was funny, it was scary, but it really penetrates, in every which way. And I really think, he just knocked it out of the ballpark with regard to that.
Wes Craven returned for one last Scream, Scream 4, in 2011, prior to his death in 2015, to skewer the biggest trend in Hollywood at the time, the dreaded reboot. But even prior to that, Scream had become such a cultural touchpoint that other creatives were already starting to contribute to the expansion of the franchise. The late 1990s saw Kevin Williamson busy with projects like Teaching Mrs. Tingle and Dawson's Creek, which led to Aaron Kruger being hired to pen the script for Scream 3. Though Williamson did return to write Scream 4, when it came time to bring Ghostface back after an 11-year absence for 2022's Scream, Paramount brought in new writers, James Vanderbilt and Guy Busick, and the directors of one of the best horror comedies of the 21st century, Ready or Not, Matt Bettinelli-Olpin and Tyler Gillette, better known as Radio Silence. Appropriately enough for a new generation arriving to continue the franchise, Radio Silence approached the 5th and 6th Scream movies as examinations of legacy sequels, and how they had become expected to ride the line of breaking new ground while respecting the foundations of the franchise at the same time.
And over the years, of course, other voices have pushed the boundaries of what Scream is doing. What have you enjoyed seeing?
I do think one of the things that's been wonderful about all these different voices and all the different hands in the Scream franchise is everyone involved is passionate about it. Everyone that's wanted to be a part of it has wanted to be a part of it because Scream meant something to them, or they got their start, or they want, it was their gateway into Hollywood, or some version of that. So I feel like with writers and Matt and Tyler, who directed 5 and 6, they just have such a love for this franchise. It's in their DNA, so that's why they were the right choice.
I guess I don't know that I can speak to like what every individual has added onto it. What's been nice for me, and this is kind of off topic, but it's nice to hear other directors and writers, like the writers of the brothers who do Stranger Things. Yeah. They were influenced by, I met them at the Emmys years ago, and they said Scream influenced them, that was the reason that they wrote Stranger Things. Like, did you know that?
No, I do know that, they did reach out to me, and I know they were big fans of Scream and all the 90s horror films and so forth.
It's nice to see people sort of going out and making things because of the films.
I'm a really big fan.
Go f*** yourself.
Scream went from being an upstart stab at telling a slasher story while poking fun at the tropes which held it together at the same time, to being a bona fide juggernaut of the very genre it set out to satirize. Ghostface is as instantly recognizable as Michael Myers, Jason Voorhees, or Freddy Krueger. He's gone from being spoofed in Scary Movie, a parody of Scream which uses Williamson's original title for Scream, to being included as a playable character in video games like Fortnite, Dead by Daylight, Call of Duty, and Mortal Kombat 1. Now, things come full circle as Kevin Williamson takes on not just script duties, but after 30 years, the director's chair for Scream 7.
Neve, obviously, you and Kevin have been part of this franchise since day one, of course, but Kevin, this is your first time directing, and so Neve, I'd be so curious to know what it was like being directed by Kevin in Scream 7.
Yes. What was it like?
Sucked. No, no, it was heaven. It was heaven. Kevin's you've wanted to direct one of these for a long time, and I don't really understand why he hadn't yet. And I was very excited that I got to make the call when we had the discussion. I was like, "Can I please be the one? Let me call." And we were in tears. We've been friends for 30 years, and he created these characters. He knows them better than any of us, So it was just so exciting and delightful to watch him, like a kid in a candy store, be able to do this and take it and ride with it. I just loved it.
Scream changed the game for horror in the 1990s, and for a series so reliant on rules, being in constant conversation with how modern audiences are relating to horror in real time, it's hard to imagine a world in which Scream doesn't remain as relevant as it's always been.
There are certain rules that one must abide by in order to successfully survive a horror movie.
This is obviously a franchise that is so in conversation with the rules of horror, and I'd like to know what everyone's opinion here is on whether or not you feel like there are any rules in horror that cannot be broken by Scream, or if everything is on the table.
I think everything's on the table. Yeah. I think that's what's great about Scream. I think the rules from the first film still apply. I think they're very sort of universal in storytelling, and so they still apply. And I also think we're in a place now where we live in such a world of uncertainty and crazy time. It really is crazy time. And so I don't think you can write anything that's crazier than what's really happening. And so therefore that tells us there's no rules. The rules are off the table. Everything's possible.
So in closing, let me say, good luck, Godspeed, and for some of you, I'll see you soon.